everybody, and welcome back to the limited series podcast, Obi-Wan, episode 5 now. We have one to go after this one. This episode, it kind of focused more on Anakin and Obi-Wan. And Vader and Obi-Wan, right? Because Anakin and Vader are different.
Yeah.
With the flashbacks, the episode starts out with Attack of the Clones footage that we didn't see, right? Like that's kind of how they play it all off. There's like a jousting or a dueling, there's a lightsaber battle between the two. And we see that a lot through this episode. They keep flashing back to it. And it was okay. They didn't do any of the de-aging with Hayden Christensen.
Yeah.
I don't think they needed to with Obi-Wan, honestly. He didn't look like he was touched at all, except his beard looked slightly different. But Hayden, the years have changed on him more than Ewan McGregor.
Yeah.
So Ewan McGregor still looks a lot like Ewan McGregor from 20 years ago because he was already fully matured, right?
Yeah, older. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, once you hit a certain age, you usually don't look really, really bad for a little while. But once you're, in your 20s and then now you're in your 40s, I'll tell you what, I look a lot different than I did in my freaking 20s. It took me out of it a little bit though.
Yeah, I agree. Like when they cut to them and they were doing their little training, I was like, oh, they didn't retouch him up any.
Yeah, because we're talking Anakin with the rat tail and the short hair from Attack of the Clones. So it might have been easier to accept if it was something that they were doing from Revenge of the Sith. But they didn't do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I think they could have got away with it because he had more hair. So they could have hid with shadows and things some of the effects. And they wouldn't have had to de-age him maybe. But yeah, his face, his skin and everything is just different proportion. He has wrinkles in places now that, he didn't then. He was very youthful in the original 3 or 2, I guess, because he was only in 2 of those 3. But this started off with that, like definitely was a point for me where I was just, you know what? I'm not one of the like huge purveyors for de-aging, but I think if you do it right, I think it makes a big difference.
A huge difference.
Big difference, right?
Huge difference.
So,
like,
they did the whole...
It was just kind of disappointing.
Yeah. And I don't feel like with as much as he was in this, that it would have cost that much to really do. It would have been a big budget killer. It's not like Captain Marvel where we de-aged Samuel L. Jackson the entire movie, right? So these were only, maybe a total of 8 or 9 minutes of the whole episode, maybe? Maybe 3 or 4 minutes each little flashback that happens. So we'll kind of break those down a little bit, but that's what it starts off with. Essentially starting off with Obi-Wan still teaching him. He's still a Padawan learner at this point.
Right.
And he's trying to get through to him that he needs to focus not on winning, but on his goal. Like, how he's going to get to it by using the Force,
right? Using
the light,
not being the winner.
Yeah, because he really stuck on winning. If you haven't noticed, Vader doesn't like to lose, and
he does not.
Neither does Anakin. So we know why that goes hand in hand. But essentially, just a lot of back and forth between this cave that they land in, and they're trying to smuggle everybody out, right?
Yeah,
off of this planet Jabin.
Yep,
and there was a lot of good parts in it, but it was another episode like episode 4 where it was just a lot of bouncing back and forth. Went from the flashback to what's going on with the cave right now and Vader and Obi-Wan.
You didn't get a lot of like forward movement really in the story per se.
Right. Now, not to say that was bad. There was quite a bit of stuff that happened that was kind of eye-opening and like, oh, wow, that's kind of cool. I like this. But it does, the tracker that we saw at the end of last episode is Lola.
Yep.
And she's doing her job. So they find them. So they do land on this planet. They know right where they are. They do have some blast doors. So they shut the blast doors and they kind of buy some time. And Lola goes in and kills the power to their escape door. So the door closes. So now they can't fly out. And they're like, how long till we fix this? He's like, I don't know, give me 3 or 4 hours. Obi-Wan's like, you've got one.
You've got one. You have 1 hour.
And that kind of puts a little bit of a strain on what's going to happen. He's like, I'll try and buy you some time. So they kind of just go out to face.
Well, and then you have little Leia who pops up and is like, I can do it.
Yeah, right before that. Yeah, like the bigger point is they're buying them time.
Yeah.
But nobody can fit in this little area to find what happened. And she is the small one. So she's like, I'll do it. And he's like, you trust me? And he's like, yeah. Obi-Wan says this to O'Shea Jackson's character, which I can't remember his character's name. And he says, yeah. And he goes, well, then I trust her. So in turn, you trust Leia too.
So get her a ladder.
Get her a ladder and get her in there, right? So yeah, then we just have this buying time part of it. This would have been in the first third, maybe middle half, if this were a movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That kind of a part of a movie where stuff kind of slows down. The hype was up a little bit, but now they're bringing you back down. They're going to hype it back up one more time before the ending, right? This kind of feels like that sort of a moment. And it was a lot of buying time, more story building. And that's where we get the conversation where you have the third sister. She's on the opposite side of the wall, and Obi-Wan, and he goes out there to talk to her through the wall. These walls, by the way,
they looked pretty thick.
Pretty thick for you to hear each other through the wall.
That's kind of what especially with the way they were whispering.
Yeah. So I would have liked more if they would have made that like a Force conversation.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought maybe they would do, but they didn't. And I was like, okay, so they're just literally talking to each other through the wall. Like, how can they hear each other?
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, I'm going with it.
Yeah. And it happened for a while too. This wasn't like a short conversation. So yeah, I just let it go too. But it didn't make a whole lot of sense to this very thick door. It's probably a foot thick. You're not going to be able to whisper and hear each other through it. But we do get a little conversation back and forth, and we find out that the third sister is not there for Obi-Wan. She's there for Vader. Yep. She's trying to kill Vader. And he finds this out because he mentioned how she knew Anakin was alive. And how did you know he was Anakin before Vader? You're not that old. And then he puts 2 and 2 together.
He like just deciphers it. You see him like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
You were there when that Order 66 was executed.
And you were a youngling.
You were a youngling. And you see the flashback, and she's
and we talked about this in a previous episode, that there was speculation that, and it fits, I mean, that she was this little girl that was trying to, help everybody. Let's go. Turns out he killed everybody, and she pretended to be dead and laid underneath their bodies. And she has a pretty terrible like description, I mean, like terrible as in like it's pretty awful. She laid there until their bodies got cold, and that's pretty detailed, brutal description of something. For a little girl to go through. But she's held on to that like rage this whole time and hid it from Vader so that she can get as close as possible to try and kill him. And Obi-Wan's like, let me help you.
He's like, let's bring him to me.
Bring
me to him, but really they're bringing Vader to them.
Right, exactly.
Because he knew Vader would come down.
Yeah, you're not bringing him to me. We're bringing him to you, as in the third sister. We're bringing him for the third sister. Yeah. And so that's kind of the first moment that we see. Then I believe around this time is where we do get another flashback from him and Hayden Christensen, or Anakin, are fighting now still. And he keeps, I've won, admit it, master, I've won. And he still continues to fight back, and he's using stuff against Anakin. And then, we flash again back to the cave, and a little bit of Vader stuff happening. They're still trying to buy time, and we still cut a little bit back and forth to Leia, she's up in that hole in the wall, whatever, right?
Vent. Through all the cords.
And there's like a million cords and everything in this thing. And she finally sees what she's looking for, but then Lola comes kind of out of the thing because she was in there hiding, and she catches her, and she's like, Lola, and like you think like Lola's gonna attack her or something.
I know, I thought like she's gonna like shoot at her or something.
Right. Yeah, she has a little weapon or something. But she pulls off the little tracker thing, and then Lola turns good. Like she's okay now. Everything's fine. And then we do get a little bit of back in the corridor where they're still trying to block everybody off. And the third sister made it through the first opening after she's like, I don't need your help for Obi-Wan. She just comes for him, you know. She cuts through with her saber, and she's now through into the corridor. And that was a cool scene. I liked the corridor scene. A lot of action.
Yeah, a lot of action, a lot of fighting.
Yeah,
that was pretty cool. The stormtroopers still can't hit shit. Like
no, neither could we. Neither could we really.
Neither could we. Yeah, like I was like, come on, Obi-Wan.
The only reason it seemed like there's so many of them, they had the numbers, and we were killing some of them, but they had so many of them, it didn't seem like it.
Yeah. And then you have Tala, who is fighting, and then she gets hit. And and her droid is there with her, and she realizes she's not going to get out. She's going to die. So she might as well save everyone else.
Yeah. And we do have to talk about her, like why we feel like she sacrificed, right? And that was because she talked about every person that she took out, you know, she shows behind her holster that she has like a mark there of, you know, semblance, or, you know, symbolism for her. And she's trying to repay the debt because a lot of people died
because of her.
At her
she
hand.
Couldn't do anything to keep her covered.
She had to keep her covered. Right. So, and I think she said 6 of them were children, 14 died, and 6 were kids.
Yeah.
And she's been making up, you know, the difference this whole time. And that, go back to what you were saying there.
Yeah. And she realizes that she's not going to get out. So she tells Obi-Wan to go and shut the door. And she has this like bomb, and he's like trying to get to where Obi-Wan is, and she shuts the door.
She's been shot too, so it's pretty rough.
She shuts the door, and then the bomb goes off.
Yeah. Yep.
Clears them out.
Yep. So just in time, the doors close, and she is essentially like, it's like an underground bunker is where they really are. So when this thing blows up, you know, it's all held in that area, kind of takes out all the other stormtroopers that are in there. The third sister saw the bomb, didn't get out in time. So she's okay at least. But yeah, so then you finally realize that the whole time it cuts back again for Obi-Wan and Anakin fighting. And the whole buildup for the episode is the fact that like Obi-Wan knows Vader better than Vader knows himself.
Yes.
Right. That's kind of the whole gist. Yeah.
Yep. I agree.
He's like,
he knows how to play him.
Yeah. He's like trying to tell the rebels that, okay, you guys need to get going. I'm going to go back in. And he gives his saber to, what was his name? It's Kumail Nanjiani. Hajim. Yeah. He gives his saber and his transmitter to him and says, you need to get Leia back, you know, take care of her, you know. And he's like, well, now I'm a Jedi, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of a jokey, you know, situation. Obviously he's comic relief, but he's like, what? Then O'Shea Jackson's character is like, wait a minute, what are you doing? Like you're going to go out there with no weapons? And he's like, I don't need weapons.
Yeah. But before he did give the transmitter, yes. Yeah. Obi-Wan got a message.
He did. Yes, that's true.
From Leia's father saying, I haven't heard anything from you. I know he said no contact, but if I don't hear from you soon, I'm going to go to Tatooine with the boy.
Yep. So that does come into play a little later as well. But yeah, you see Obi-Wan just kind of go into the area. They lock the doors behind him, and obviously they have the door open now so that they can escape. So they're all going to be getting into this ship, but they go out and they put him on his knees, and he has another little conversation with third sister. And he's like, you know, let me help you again. You know, we can do this. And, you know, why would I need your help? And what makes you think he's not going to see it coming? Because he's basically saying, you take out Vader. I'm cool. I'm just going to be the decoy. Right. Like, and she's like, well, what makes you think he won't see it coming? He's like, he'll only see me. Just another thing that, you know, Obi-Wan knows Anakin and Vader basically at this point, because he's figured them both out, and he's got a plan. And yeah, kind of works to the advantage that you would think. They take him in and kind of lock him up in the area, and Vader shows up. And he's just like, where is he? Where's Obi-Wan? And he's like, he's being held inside, and he goes in there to do his bidding with him. And it's it was interesting. I mean, it cuts to Obi-Wan talking with again, flashback, where he thinks he's beat Obi-Wan with the saber battle. He's armed him, so now he has no saber, and Obi-Wan ends up
using the Force.
He dodges it and pulls his saber right out of his hand, and now he's just like, and then he gives him his little speech, like, you have to understand that it's not about winning. This is the whole thing. It's about getting there and doing the job without being forceful, and you have to be mindful of everything.
Yes.
And
don't let your aggression take over.
Right. And that's what
we know how that turned out.
Yeah, that's just what Anakin does. Like he's a very aggressive guy, and you can just see the difference in their battle. Their lightsaber battle is just a big deal. Huge difference in the way they fight. But so it just like a little bit more. What is it more that you remember from the Vader Obi-Wan in the bunker from your perspective?
Not a lot, honestly, because what happened later kind of overrode that.
Okay.
Like you're watching this, cool stuff happen, and then something really awesome happens later on, and you kind of lose sight of what it was.
It's true.
Like, because what happened later, literally, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. Well, essentially what happens is Vader goes in to the main part, and like, there's a ship taking off. Their ship is taking off.
Yes.
This is after like any sort of, he's been the Obi-Wan thing was a decoy.
Yes.
Like he goes to find Obi-Wan, but it just cuts to a flashback, and you just know that Obi-Wan is just one basically because he played him, right? And you don't really get the big oh shit moment in this episode until Vader goes in and there's a ship taking off, and he fucking catches it. Like he stops it in midair.
The Force.
Yeah, he just stops it full like bore. I mean, the thing is going, and it's just still trying to go, and he's still holding it in place.
And he's pulling it backwards.
Yeah, he's landing it. He's putting it back down. Like he's like, you ain't going nowhere. Hell no. And just one hand in the thing. I was just like, I mean, when it happened, we were like, holy crap. Verbally out loud, I was like, oh shit. Yeah. Like I loved it.
I know, I did too. I was like, this is the best part of the whole like series right now.
Yeah,
like,
dude. Man, you saw how powerful he was.
And that's the thing, like watching what I'm going to call original Star Wars trilogy.
4, 5, and 6.
Vader was never, I mean, you knew he was strong, but not like that.
No, he was just so evil at that point.
Yeah.
Like he didn't have to be strong. He had all the things at his will, right? Like he had
he had all of these people who would do whatever he wanted. Yeah. He had built that up.
Right.
But it's like, imagine if he had used that power.
Yeah.
In the it would be totally different Star Wars movies, I think. Like,
it would. If Star Wars was made right now, it would be PG-13 still, but it would be a much more like
darker, heavier PG-13.
Yeah, exactly. Like he'd be breaking
all right,
arms
George
and
Lucas,
stuff.
if
You know
you're
what
listening.
I mean? George, he ain't gonna do this. He's gonna be somebody else. George is retired. He's a billionaire. But yeah, it was awesome, and it turned out to be a trap within a trap, which was kind of cool because it was the one ship.
You're like so blown away that he's pulling this ship down, and then you're like, oh my God, all of those people on there. Like you're thinking of Obi-Wan and Leia and all these little kids. And
the thing about it though is because he lands the ship and then he starts ripping the ship apart.
And you're like, wait. And you're like, where is everybody at?
Yeah, and you're like, oh shit.
And then like there's not bodies coming out. Yeah. And then you just see another ship behind take off super fast. And you're like, yay!
Yeah. It was like Obi-Wan was the pure focus he had. So that was like decoy 1, and then 2, there was a lot actually. It was probably 4 if I had to say so. 2 was the secondary ship. Then 3 was the real ship takes off like, oh shit, like he's gotten screwed 3 times in a row, and then the third sister shows up.
Now you just see how his hate for Obi-Wan keeps getting fueled.
Oh yeah.
Like it just keeps growing. You're like, oh yeah, he hates Obi-Wan obviously because he thinks, he turned Padme against him and took his kids. He doesn't know what happened to the kids and whatever.
But they're dead.
That's what he thinks.
She was buried looking pregnant, that whole thing.
But it's just like, now you just start to put pieces together of like, oh, okay. Yeah. Now I see why he really hates Obi-Wan.
Yeah. And how much he dials himself back, because he can just turn people into jelly. You know what I mean? Like he could literally just squeeze them into jelly.
Done.
After watching this, like you have no doubt in your mind, like, oh yeah, Yeah,
Vader's a badass.
He's super powerful. And then it does really make you really then understand that in episode 6, how he can kill the Emperor. Like, he's just so powerful at the point. Like, he could pick the Emperor up and be like, screw you, I'm done. I don't care if he's older at that time or not. The Force has made him strong in all kinds of ways. Plus, at that point, he kind of leaned into the light side of the Force, which is stronger than the dark side. Yeah. We all know this.
Yes.
It's an ongoing debate for life. But yes, that was awesome. The third sister then shows up and tries to kill him as, he's doing all this. And he if I remember right, did he not even pull out his saber?
He did not.
He never used his saber once.
So like hers was a double saber.
Yeah, it's like it's cool saber too.
He pops it apart and throws one at her, and you're like, oh, she's dead. Like, she's toast. He's just toying with her now.
He toyed with her before that too. Yeah. Like, he kind of let her do things, and then he would like force push her away, or he'd just be dodging.
It was so effortless too on his part. Like, he's probably not even breaking his. Well, he couldn't break a sweat under there, but anyway, right. I mean, he wouldn't be breaking a sweat. He's like,
right, exactly. Yeah. And then, she does the like twirling thing with it. She's holding the center of the saber, and it's like motorized and spinning. And he just kind of stops it, and then he just pops it apart, throws one half at her, takes the other half, and then we just have a battle, just a fight going on.
Which I really think that was just him toying with her.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
1,000,000%. And he's just messing with her. Yep. Yeah, then he gets a stab on her, and she hits the ground, and he's just like, okay, let's get going. Well, he did present her Grand Inquisitor in this episode, by the way. We just kind of walked over that, but gets taken away right away.
Yep. Yeah. Because guess who comes around the corner?
The original Grand
Inquisitor. And
his whole purpose is like, look at how much revenge can fuel you.
Yep.
Yeah. So he obviously has revenge because she tried to kill him, and she has the revenge fuel for Vader. And Vader has revenge fuel for Obi-Wan. Kind of goes together. You see what we're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, they have a little bit going on here.
I just thought of this. So the original Grand Inquisitor.
Yep.
Obviously, he's been hanging out on Vader's ship. Mm-hmm. So.
In a fuel or a healing tank somewhere, probably.
Probably.
Yeah.
But so, Darth Vader knew he was alive.
Yeah.
So was he playing Reva the whole time? But then it's like, why did he fall for Obi-Wan's traps? Okay, now I'm getting myself into a circle.
Oh, it's true. I mean, we could speculate and theorize, right?
Yeah.
But he makes a couple of statements, Vader makes a couple of statements about how, did you really think I didn't see?
He does.
So I do kind of think he knew
who she was,
and he let her do everything for him. So he did play her and then didn't have to work, and she got him as this far, right?
Yeah.
So she's found Obi-Wan and everything. So I do feel like there was kind of like he's a double agent, right?
Yeah.
Working for himself though. Like, he's just like, I got this, but she can do it for me, and I can still continue to do the other things I want to do that are evil in the background for my Emperor, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the whole thing about Vader is like, he's still technically, he's not the Emperor. He's
not the man in charge.
Yeah. He's evil, and he is a Sith Lord, but he is not the Sith Lord, right?
Right.
So he's still kind of the there's always two, right?
Yeah. He's the henchman.
Right. So I think that could be played off as like he was still doing all of his henchman work or his Sith work with the Emperor in the background. So he needs somebody to do this stuff for him. He does know, but he can keep her under control.
His whole focus.
And I kind of like that. I kind of like that theory, and I'll tell you why. That makes me like Vader even more, because even though he's a whiny baby who doesn't like sand,
hashtag no sand,
yes, he's showing some gumption and some smarts. Like, if they do lean into that, I like that theory a lot, actually, because that makes me feel like he knows, he's smart. And then the second reason I like that more is that just makes me realize and like how much smarter Obi-Wan is and can take it to him. Like, no matter what, he can't win. No. Like, Obi-Wan knows you better. It doesn't matter how smart you are.
Obi-Wan knows him in and out. Like, he basically raised him.
Right.
So of course he knows him. He was with him all the time.
Exactly.
That's like us being with our kids and knowing like, all right, what are you doing? Like, we're not stupid.
Exactly. Like, what they're going to do before they do it.
Right.
Exactly like this episode. So he knew, I don't need a saber. I don't need a blaster. I don't need any weapons.
He's
going to come for me. But also you do have that side of Vader. Like, I know she's the youngling. I remember her. I felt her presence. I'm feeling it again because I'm using my abilities and stuff. Right. And
because
I'm going to let her
have to.
Oh yeah.
Like, just from the scene that they showed and how he looked at her when he walked in, like, he had to have known.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You mean the scene when she was a youngling?
When she was a youngling.
Yeah. I mean, he looked her right in the face and then just killed everyone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like, walked right past her.
Yep. I mean, like, okay. She obviously wasn't dead, but just walked past her and continued on. And then for him to not realize, I think that would make Vader dumber than the fans would appreciate, because he was never put on to be that kind of a character. Like, he was very evil. In the original trilogy, if we talk about, the good ones, 4, 5, and 6, is like, he had a plan. He knew what he was doing. And it wasn't always just the Emperor pulling the trigger, and
and that's the thing. Anakin was smart.
Yeah, he could be smart.
He just chose not to listen to that part.
And we know he was smart for other reasons as well, even before he was, becoming a Jedi, because he built C-3PO and he could fly pods and make pods. And I mean, he's smart.
Yeah.
So to be able to use those type of, like, smartness, I guess, and then using it heightened with evil.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to be able to read people's minds and, know the Force. And I mean, we were told, he's super strong, and he was supposed to be the one to balance the Force, right?
Wow.
So he's as strong, if not stronger, than Master Yoda, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I like that. I like that theory because it makes me like Vader more, and it makes me like Obi-Wan more. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
And it makes me want to see more of what happens with them.
Like, I've always liked Obi-Wan. Like, I liked him.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? And all the movies and every actor that's played him. But like this just makes me love him more.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like, I see how he is, like how smart he is, how he is with Leia, like, especially now that he's like opening himself back up to the Force.
Right.
You know what I mean? He's not so scared anymore. He's becoming the Jedi we need.
Yeah, he is like the Jedi too, if you think about it, because he, in this series so far and in the movies, has never wavered. He's never wavered.
Never.
So if you think about it, Luke wavered. Luke got a little evil, like in the final battle in episode 6. I mean, with Vader, like, he was gonna kill him.
Yeah.
And then he pulled back, but he still wavered.
Yeah.
Obi-Wan has never wavered.
He's never wavered.
So, to see him and see why, it kind of builds that connection more with episode 4 and 5 and 6, obviously, with Obi-Wan and Luke, because Luke wants to be as good as Obi-Wan, but he knows it's going to be difficult. Like, he knows he can't.
Yeah.
And you do see that struggle if you pay attention and like talking it out like we do here. It's like, we do have this show now that we can look at and reference. Oh, like, they made him out to be this really clear-cut, good Jedi out to help the people, and a huge standard of a Jedi, right? And then Luke comes in and is like 16, 17 years old, doesn't know how to do any of this stuff. He's supposed to live up to this. And, how is he supposed to do this? You could see that being a little frustrating for Luke, and why he kind of wavered and was a little lost. And he didn't have that guidance. He didn't have Obi-Wan to guide him. I mean, he had his Force ghost around, and he had Yoda for a little while, but he had to kind of figure it out on his own. So that gives you a little bit more props, if you think about it out loud, for Luke too, because he did it without the help that Obi-Wan clearly got from Qui-Gon. So, not to mention, you still have Yoda in there and Mace Windu and everybody. There's probably side stories and comics of Obi-Wan going to them for advice and help, So there could have been moments in those where Obi-Wan wavered. But as far as main media goes, all the mass stuff that we've watched, he didn't waver at all. No. And I mean, that's why the show is called Obi-Wan. I mean, obviously,
it's about Obi-Wan.
It's about him, and they're building his character very, very well. I absolutely love it. And I mean, this episode wasn't fantastic.
No, but it wasn't bad.
Oh man,
good.
No, none of them have been bad.
No.
And if the 6th one's bad, that'd be really bad.
That would be really bad. Like, what? We get to the end and it's not good.
Yeah. It's just him complaining about sand for the last 15 minutes,
No more sand.
Yeah. But yeah, I thought it was cool. I absolutely loved the Vader scene, just stopping the ship and putting it to the ground and ripping it to pieces. That was awesome, just to see him. But just those underlying things that, we get to talk about here on the show. It's just, it adds to like the love and like the storytelling and the world building they're doing.
Oh, yeah.
Because I mean, honestly, you can think about them, but it's so much nicer to talk about them and have a conversation. And,
And that's the thing, like we wait and have our conversation about it when we record.
Yeah.
So like I have to go all day. Like yesterday, we watched it yesterday and then we're recording the next day. And it's like, okay, I can't talk about it yet because we're not recording.
Yeah.
Because otherwise then we're going to be like, we already talked about all this.
Yeah. Sometimes that can happen. Yeah. So, but we try to at least keep on track and be able to talk about the episode and how we feel about it.
Yeah.
And I think that's really good. I think that it's a good mix that we have going on. It's pretty cool. So let us know what you guys thought about this episode. Obviously, we liked it.
Talk about the transmitter.
Oh, yes, that's right. That's right. The final little dealie. Yeah. Well, yeah, in all the little battle sequence with Vader and the third sister, they destroy.
When Haja's running to the
That's
to
true.
the
That's
ship,
when he drops it.
You see the transmitter fall out onto the sand.
Yep.
And I was like, uh-oh.
Yep.
That's bad news.
Yeah, and it gets destroyed. Well, it gets semi-destroyed, right? It gets beat up a little bit. And then the third sister, after she's been stabbed and Vader just kind of leaves her to die, she sees it and kind of like reaches over to it and grabs it, and she kind of makes it work. Like she does these little connections on it, and then she listens to it, and you can hear
all you hear is
boy
the
kids, right? And then Tatooine.
And you're like, oh.
So that's the cliffhanger.
So now you're like, is she?
But then they do cut at the very, very end. They do cut and show you Luke sleeping.
Yes.
Yeah. That's our first close-up look of him. It's just kind of a side view of Luke.
Then you're like, okay, is she going to use this? Like, would Vader ever even trust her again? Probably not.
Oh.
So then you're like, what is she going to do?
She's clearly not dead.
Right.
They're even talking about her getting her own show. So she's going to be okay somehow or another.
Plus, we also know there is going to be a season 2 of Obi-Wan.
Yeah, they've at least said, that the outpour of success has made them want to do another one.
I don't know why they ever doubt it.
You never know. You just never know. But we'll see. I think we're gonna get Luke and Leia in this next one. Not together though. I think it's just gonna be Luke and Leia. And their two little flashy backy things we're gonna have happen. There's something's gonna happen we're gonna bounce back and forth from Luke and Leia, I think. And there's probably gonna be some sort of a close cross pathing, if I have to guess, because that always kind of happens. Like, look how close they were to meeting.
Oh, they could have known.
Yeah. Which is kind of neat still. I like that. And especially if they've worked it in the story really, really well, where it makes sense, because we know from Leia's dialogue in 4, she knows what Tatooine is.
Yeah.
I mean, she's, senator's daughter. So she's been places.
She's a well-traveled little girl.
Yes. So I'm excited for the 6th one and the final one. Don't know how long it's going to be. I don't think they've released that yet. If they have, I've not seen that, but we'll see. Yeah. I'm excited to see it. But yeah, like I was trying to say earlier, so thank you for stopping me. Yeah. Totally forgot about that cliffhanger. Yeah, I was overtaken by the enormous amount of power that Vader has, and oh my God,
our theories.
Yeah.
See, that's what tends to happen. We talk about it, and then we lose track of where we're going.
It happens. It's okay. It's a good conversation. Still valid.
That's right.
All right. Well, that is it for this episode. So we'll be back next week with the final one.
Yay!
It's going to be good. I know, right? I have to wait for the next season whenever that happens.
Also, check out my cool shirt.
Oh, yeah. If you want to jump over on YouTube and take a look. Heather's sporting some Loud Thumbs merch.
Yep.
Yeah. Working on a store, guys. Yep. So if you like these things in the show, essentially just pick up a shirt and help support the show.
I got Josh and I got Nick.
Yep. Our kind of faces are on there. They're kind of an artsified sort of face, which is kind of neat.
Yeah. It's cool.
Something fun I went with, right? It's a good time.
I like it.
Yeah.
Go check it out. Go buy one.
Yeah, let us know if you're interested in that, honestly, because I'm working on the store, but it's not done yet. And I would like to publish it and put it up out there if anybody's interested in any sort of shirts or cups or, I made a pair of shoes, so which my son thinks is awesome.
Yes, and he wants to buy them so badly.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, that's it for this one. We'll be back next week. And until then, everybody have a great weekend and stay safe.